Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to yet another episode of the Wrestle Geek podcast. I'm your host, one of your hosts, Mitch, and I'm joined alongside by the other two amigos. First off, across the seas, we have Howie. How's it going, Howie?
How's it going, Mitch? All is well. The weather it's really brightened up here. You know, it really is sunny England now. But that's odd. That's peculiar. We had snow only, a month or two ago.
Yep.
And then now it's feels like mid-July. It's real hot for us. But I'm loving it. You know, everybody's turning into like lobster red shade here because they're just getting it out in the sun any chance they can get. They're like, burn me. All in all, it makes everything
down.
Yeah, exactly. It just makes everyone feel better, and I feel better. Yeah, all is good. Happy to be back.
What's up, Rich? How we doing?
Mitch, Howie, what is going on, guys? How's everything going? How's the week been so far? Everything well?
Hey, Rich, all is good. How about you, man? How's things?
Going good. Very busy week thus far. Got to see Monday Night Raw live last night along with Mitch. It was a good time. Good time.
Oh yes, we had a good time hanging out with one another. The matches itself. They I don't know how it came across on cable, but in the arena it was like it was ridiculous. I don't know. Rich, we'll talk about it in a little while. But, yeah. But yeah. Overall, like I said, anytime we hang out, it's a good time. But whatever. In any case, so we anybody that's an avid listener or a regular listener, we apologize for last week. We didn't get around to doing an episode. It was just a lot of nonsense going on, and I had stuff going on at the house, and we just couldn't get around to it. So we're picking up with this week's episode of Raw. We will be alluding to Backlash, and we'll kind of throw little tidbits in here and there. But we're gonna do Raw, and we'll talk about other stuff, and it should be a good episode. So let's I mean, what I'd like to do is I know Richie has some stuff he wants to get off his chest. So we were both at the live event last night at Raw. Because it was in Long Island, and it's close to both of us. I mean, I'm in Long Island, but it's close enough to Rich where it's not an inconvenience to come, see Raw. So Rich, let's get some of your thoughts, real quick about the live crowd and the live, show that we saw.
Well, I definitely came to the realization last night that one of the biggest problems within the WWE universe is actually the WWE universe. That crowd last night should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. Here we are. We have these guys coming into the ring, putting on a performance, trying to, making them do like the best throw possible for your top dollar, and they have it throwing a beach ball around, and then the guy pops, and you guys start chanting asshole. Then all of a sudden we're hearing "Let's go Mets," "Let's go Yankees," "Rangers suck," "Islanders suck."
TNA chants.
TNA chants. When TNA's been out of business for the last 3-4 years. Like, seriously, people, what the fuck in plain English are you fucking doing? When you're at a live event, are you there to watch to speak with your mind, whatever you want to do? Are you there to enjoy a wrestling show? I mean, I remember I said to my wife when we were there, before we got pulled into the parking lot, I said it was nearly 20 years to the day. My first Raw was at Nassau Coliseum on my birthday in October of '98. And then 20 years later, and it's the difference between the show between then and now. Granted, I was a kid, but how the crowd reacted and how the crowd was into it and enjoying the matches compared to the shit that was there yesterday with the crowd, it was absolutely disgusting.
Absolutely. And I agree 100%. And the ball was right next to us, so it was kind of like, and then people will like you said, and I don't blame that guy for popping the ball. Like when I saw him do it, I said I wanted to say good, like yell good really loud, just to start a trouble, But then I was like, man, I don't want to get start a riot and get kicked out and stuff like that, and then embarrass you in front of your wife. And if it was just the guys there, I swear to God, I would have been mouthing off, and I would have, but I held my tongue because I didn't want, like I said, I don't want to make your wife feel uncomfortable. You and I, if we were just here by ourselves, I think we would have been screaming shit. Yeah.
All hell would have broke loose.
We would have threw those assholes in the ring. But
holy shit! I mean, absolutely pathetic and disgusting.
No, absolutely, and you know what? Also,
one thing that's gotta freaking stop what has it been, 5 years? If I hear another goddamn CM Punk chant at a live event, I swear to God, I am so sick of it.
Yeah, and you know what? The messed up is, I loved CM Punk when he was in the WWE. The problem is that he left on his own accord, and he chose to make those decisions that he made. All right, he could have very well went to just the same way he went to Vince McMahon and said, "I quit." He could have went up to him and said, "Listen, I have a problem here. I got a bump on my side or whatever it was. I got to, they keep giving me antibiotics. I don't agree with, what the doctors are telling me. I'm sure Vince McMahon would have given CM Punk a few minutes of his time. It's just the same way he did when he went to quit or whatever the story was with the WrestleMania when he was supposed to fight Triple H or whatever the story was. All right. So, and also on the CM Punk topic is like he could have went and seen his own doctor. It's not like they're chained down. Okay. He could have went to any hospital in the area that they were in. He could have went to any regular family physician or found somebody, and I know he's cheap, but I know he also has a lot of money. He could have went to any doctor and paid the $100 for a visit or whatever the story is. Sometimes it's less, and had a different doctor evaluate, and then brought that report to Vince McMahon and said, "Listen, your doctor keeps telling me this. This doctor is now telling me this. I feel like the doctor is not doing his job in WWE." Instead of complaining that he shit his pants from the antibiotics and then, telling off Vince McMahon and Triple H, it all came down to the fact that it really had nothing to, in my opinion, really had nothing to do with the doctors. I think it was that he didn't want to wrestle Triple H at WrestleMania or whatever the story was, even though he was supposedly going to win. He wasn't happy with his place in the company at the time. So I know I'm going off on a tangent about CM Punk, but you brought him up. So did all those people in the arena.
It's a tangent well deserved, and people need to hear this shit because it's ridiculous.
And it's stupid because if you look at it in that light, in that respect, like he could have done all those things and not been a crybaby and just went and whined to I was hurt, nobody took care of me, and they tried to give me antibiotics. Whatever. They probably thought it was an infection or something. And that's why they gave him the antibiotics. But that's just like a normal, like, let's just say, forget it's CM Punk, all right? It's me, it's you, it's Howie, it's some of the people listening, okay? You go to the doctor, you tell the doctor you have a problem, the doctor gives you medicine, the medicine doesn't work, and it's 2 months later. Are you going to continue to go to that doctor, or are you going to go to fucking find help somewhere else?
You're going to go to a second opinion and find out what the fuck is going on.
So is he retarded? Excuse my thing. I mean, is there something wrong with his brain? Like that he didn't know to go. You know what I mean? It's like any person with half a brain that takes care of themselves, that's a responsible adult, will go get a second opinion and then bring it. And then if Vince McMahon tells you, we have to listen. Vince McMahon wouldn't have told him that, especially with all the liabilities they have nowadays and all the scrutiny they're under.
Look at case in point with Daniel Bryan. How long did he go through with everything else trying to get cleared, and when all these multiple doctors and finally he was cleared with multiple sources? You know what I mean?
And the man, like I said, CM Punk left on his own accord. He wasn't fired. He asked for his release. He walked out on the company. He walked out on all the fans. He walked out on the company. He walked out on all the other co-workers. Okay? And the other thing that pisses me off about him is like when he was telling the story about how he was standing there with Triple H and Vince McMahon, okay? They handpicked him to fight The Rock. They handpicked him to fight The Undertaker at WrestleMania, okay? They handpicked him to fight Triple H at that was supposed to be his next opponent at WrestleMania, okay? So they were putting him in these matches with The Rock, all right? The Undertaker, Triple H. These are not, this is not Barry Horowitz or Bob Holly.
These are legends of the industry that he should have been honored to be chosen, that you've been in the ring with those guys.
And they trusted him to be with these people. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And he looked at it as, I wasn't in the main event, or I wasn't the... Dude, you're fighting The Rock, who's not even a wrestler anymore. It was a super mega... The number one paid actor in Hollywood. All right, the number one actor, period, right now, and you're gonna bitch that you were putting a match with him, but you had to lose. Come on, man. Anyway, CM Punk's a bitch. All right, and he sucks in UFC also. So
yeah, he got his ass whipped, didn't he?
He walked right into that friggin' chokehold. He literally walked, and I constantly make fun of it when I'm with Richie, like how he walked right into it like a freaking penguin. He walked right and let him put him in.
I think the thing that was most heartbreaking about his debut in Ultimate Fighting Championship and MMA in general was the look of emotion in his eyes, actually, was when after he was defeated, just he had said quite openly going into before doing that in the press conferences and things like that, that he was, that there was a possibility he was going to get his ass whooped. Okay, so that did happen,
right?
But he did a little bit of tears and things like that. Now I know it's not nice getting punched in the face. It's happened to me before. I can't say I enjoy it. I don't think anybody does, but I think it's something you get used to. But he was awfully emotional after he got his ass whooped, and I don't think that helped things. I think he needed to man up and just be a little bit more like, well, there was a possibility that this was going to happen, and I just because then people are just going to look at it and just go, "Are you really cut out for this, man?" Because I think people doubted that anyway. And then, but he said he's going to have another crack at it, though, isn't he?
In June, June in Chicago, in his hometown, he's going to take on another guy.
He's going to get his ass whipped in his hometown.
I hope he wins. I hope
he gets his ass whipped.
Just for his own. Because I wasn't like saying that I'm all for a man having feelings and being sensitive. There ain't nothing wrong with that, It's okay if a man cries, but within the context of UFC and when all of the spotlight is on you, and you got yourself into that situation because you thought, yeah, I'm a pro wrestler. I think I could be a pretty good Ultimate Fighter. I'm going to spend the best part of a year plus preparing for this, getting everybody looking at this. If you get your ass whipped, try and control your emotions and just be like reserved about this. Because to me, I think that was the thing where you just thought, man, I kind of felt for him, like the fact that it was just like, he just got beat so easily. But because I don't know about you, but he, to me, as an athlete, because of course he is an athlete being a wrestler. Some people wouldn't say he is because he's not a true sportsman because, it's that age-old question, is it real or not? But to me, CM Punk was always a great entertainer because of his ability to communicate, his pipe bombs, his attitude, the theatrics that went with his persona. It wasn't the fact that he was a dominating physical specimen, a la, not Allah, but like a la, as in the French terminology, alluding to Brock Lesnar, who is an incredibly dominating physical specimen and can legitimately just crush people because he's just massive. And then when he gets that knowledge of mixed martial arts, becomes formidable. And what makes it even harder is that in the heavyweights, when Brock Lesnar was becoming a mixed martial arts fighter, the heavyweight division was actually pretty depleted. You had a few key guys, but you had a lot of kind of dross in there as well. But in the lighter weight divisions, there's an incredible wealth of talent, and it's probably more competitive than the heavyweights are by a fair margin. So he was going into what was it? Was he in welterweight or middle? Yeah, I think it was welterweight. Can't remember, but it is it's just a wealth of talent there, so it's hard to kind of chip in. But I don't know, his departure, like you were saying, Mitch, I was aware that it was on his own terms and everything like that. Didn't realize he'd bitched quite so much as you'd said.
If you listen to that Colt Cabana podcast interview that he did, this it's his own words, and you hear him clear as day. He says everything, and at first I was like, damn, you know what, fuck WWE, that's messed up. And then as I heard him talking, I was like, does this guy realize what he's saying and like the reasons that he's leaving? And it was just like, I don't know, man. I just it just left a bad taste in my mouth. And
what was the first segment on Raw?
No, what you mean when they
once you had got past the beach balls,
was Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle came out.
Yeah. Kurt Angle came out.
actually there was a couple of dark matches, or matches that will be shown at a later date. One of them involved Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder, which was pretty awesome. Kurt Hawkins came out and he issued an open challenge, and as he did it, I said to Richie, "Woo woo woo," and Richie turned around. He's like, he just looked at me, and then like literally, what was it, like 10 seconds later? Woo woo woo, you know it. And I was like, I called it. but yeah, so it was Zack Ryder versus Kurt Hawkins. That was the actual like first legit match that I remember.
And it was good. It was actually a very entertaining match.
And you know what? Zack Ryder with a 70% full arena got the loudest pop of the night.
Yes, he did.
I think, personally, you know.
Second to none, I said maybe the only person I got probably the bigger pop would probably be Braun Strowman. Other than that, it wasn't that. Nothing
I'm
crazy.
telling you, and you got to also take into consideration the fact that by the time Braun Strowman came out, the arena was more full.
This
you
is
know
true.
What I'm saying?
This is true.
With with not a full arena, Zack Ryder basically got the loudest pop in the night, which is pretty awesome. And he went over too.
He was their homeboy, right? Because Long Island. So,
but
both
also,
him and Hawkins is also an Islander, Long Islander.
Oh, really? Wow.
I feel like no matter where they were last night, I think that still he would have gotten a huge pop, only because he's very entwined in the social media and all that stuff. And I think that people are rooting for him. Like he was almost like the underdog, even though he's ripped to shreds. You know what I mean?
He is so underutilized. It's not even funny.
And he's just so smooth in the ring. Like I'm not, I went to wrestling school twice, but I'm not like, a wrestling trainer or anything. But I've seen enough wrestling that, and I'm sure you and Howie, it's the same way. We've watched enough wrestling where we could tell when somebody's sloppy or shitty or doesn't know what they're doing. And this man is he's like a fine-tuned instrument. You know what I mean? Like it's just, and his music is so much better now too, man. It hit that music hits. It was so awesome, and he looks great. I mean, what more do you need? He's got a unique move, like, I don't know. I don't know what the hell the issue is. I still think he should do the elbow off the top, though. But, whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah, I wonder what it is. Like, why?
Who did he rub the wrong way? Did he piss somebody off? I don't know.
I don't know. It's like, I don't know, maybe he can't hold conversation well with Vince backstage or something. He has, gets nervous and says stupid stuff. And they're just like, he tries to tell a joke and they'll just like look at him like, that's not funny. And he's just like, has to walk away with his head low. But yeah, no, it sounds good. I mean, like I've said this before, I love his music. I just don't get the line about "I'm gonna wear my pants real tight."
I love that part.
Is that what we do? Is that what men are meant to do when we're going out? Like,
I don't know. My balls don't like to be squished into little places, so
I'm gonna wear my pants.
I mean, I do wear boxer briefs in case anybody wants to know. But
I was playing that song, and my 4-year-old son was like, he questioned. He was like, "Pants, but Daddy, why did it say pants?" And I'm just like, don't know, because wearing your pants tight is cool.
So with that being said, we had the opening of Raw. Kurt Angle opens Raw. He's in the ring. He got a huge pop. Of course, the "You Suck" chants start. It was cool to see Kurt Angle in live again. In the arena. Whatever. Wouldn't you agree, Rich?
Absolutely. It was hysterical, though. We're like, all the chants, "You suck." Not really.
That's what I was saying.
Not really. You suck. Not really.
Richie was hysterical laughing at me because I was sitting in the ring because I wanted, Richie's like, he leans over to me. He's like, "You ready?" And I'm like, "All right." So then we're like, "You suck." And then, as he said, I was like, "Not really," but I was saying it really loud, so it's like,
and going with the song as you're doing it with the high pitch and stuff like that. It was hysterical.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I know that way back when, I always remember Kurt Angle going to the ring and he's trying to do that thing where he's explaining that what I've realized is when they say "you suck," they're not talking about me; they're talking about my opponent. And it's like what you can generally see when you watch the product now. He is coming out and down the ring, and everyone is pointing at him whilst shouting the words "you suck." Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And he's kind of like walking along, like as if, like, yeah. No, and he you can see it on his face. He is like thinking, "Yeah, they really are saying it to me." You know, it's a shame because he doesn't suck. He's awesome.
Absolutely not. He's the furthest thing from suck. But it's just like, what else can he do? You know what I'm saying? The only other thing they can do is go back to that other version that they changed because they originally wanted them to stop saying "you suck," so they changed his music. That one that he used when he was in ECW, the fake ECW.
Yeah.
So yeah, theme song, the metal remix.
Yeah, it doesn't even have that verse in it. It's like completely taken out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which you can find in Uncaged Volume 3 on iTunes.
We better get a cut of that, WWE. Any sales from this day forth, we should get a cut of. From this day forth, we should receive a halfpenny for each one that they sell.
Oh, it's true. It's damn true.
A halfpenny. But hey penny. But penny. Hey penny. But yeah, so what are we at? We're getting too ahead of ourselves here. Oh, yeah, so then Braun Strowman came out, and he's like, I want to get these hands. And
it actually was funny. It actually was funny. He's like, do you know what happened when I was a kid? They built a treehouse, and nobody ever asked me for help. So what did I do? I tore the whole treehouse down, but I waited until everybody was on the inside, and I tore that thing down.
It was funny. And then Kevin Owens came out, and I was like, nobody wants to hear about your your treehouse. I was like, oh, God. That was awesome. But so then it turned into a Money in the Bank qualifying match because that is, in fact, the next pay-per-view of the WWE. With Strowman versus Kevin Owens. And then, of course, Braun Strowman won, running around the ring like a football star and giving him shoulder tackles. And then, which was actually pretty funny.
It was a fun match. It was definitely a fun match to watch.
I feel like in some ways like Braun Strowman brings like when they do house shows and they do stuff that's like off the script and they do stuff that's like not meant to really be done.
Right.
He does those things like when it's now live. You know what I'm saying? Like they just took those things that were funny back then and they turned it into like something that they can put on TV. You know what I mean? Like the multiple power slams. Those are things that used to see at house shows. Like Austin would stun everybody 5 times and then drink like 3,000 beers before everybody left the arena in a house show. He's like he does that stuff on TV now, and it's like acceptable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. And then it was No Way Jose and Titus Worldwide versus the Revival and Baron Corbin. I was super excited to see No Way Jose. I even went as far to I grabbed my other friend Alex who was there with us by the hand, and then I grabbed Richie's hand, and we were doing like a wave type thing, but we were rocking out. So I kind of tried to pump everybody up and get them into the No Way Jose. That was pretty funny. So
yeah, I think the gimmick works better in smaller venues. Like remember when he was on NXT and stuff like that. I think the effect of having the conga and everything like that seemed better in smaller arena.
I'm sorry, but I just cannot get into the whole no way Jose gimmick. I can't stand it. I just want to have like one day like the whole conga line going on. All of a sudden you hear like the Party Patrol come out with Adam Rose again. It's like, oh no, it's a battle of the party people now. What's gonna happen next?
The Rosebuds.
It's part of that kind of comic relief element of what they do, isn't it? I was surprised he went to Raw though. I think I've said that in the previous week.
He might have been better off on SmackDown.
He should have stayed. How about he would have been better off in NXT? How about they just leave these guys there, and they just leave these guys in NXT and just that's it. Leave them there. Like don't bring them up. Like make NXT. I know it's supposed to be like farm territory, but I think like they should just really invest a lot of time into NXT and not have Vince McMahon touch it at all and continue doing it that way and just leave these guys like poor Revival, all right? Poor what are those guys called? The Ascension. Poor what are those guys that we were making fun of yesterday without Paul Ellering? The Authors of Pain. Poor Jose Noze, Hode. He's going to be buried too, okay? Poor Tyler Breeze. I mean, we can go on and on of these guys that were awesome in NXT, and then the minute they bring them up and Mr. McMahon doesn't like them or doesn't see Hulk Hogan or the Ultimate Warrior in them, immediately buries them and puts them a wayside, I still to this day really question like Vince McMahon. How did Shawn Michaels become anybody? There had to be some kind of sexual attraction between Shawn Michaels, between Vince McMahon and Shawn Michaels, because he did not fit the mold of anybody he's ever pushed. He's basically like a cruiserweight type guy before he became anything. So how did he get past that barrier? How did he break that barrier? Because back then. It seems very strange that somebody like his size and his just became one of the biggest stars in wrestling. You know what I mean? I'm not saying he wasn't talented by any stretch of the sense. I loved Shawn Michaels when I was a kid. I still love him to this day. But what I'm saying is, you got to wonder, how did he really get to where he was at that time when it was the land of the giants? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I always wonder about that.
In terms of context, it did come off of the back of the steroid scandal in the early 90s, I think. And because there was this big court hearing, wasn't there, with where Vince McMahon was taken to court about where it was some wrestlers, I think Nails was one of them, amongst others, where he had said
you tried to touch my dick.
he had basically said that Vince was basically peddling steroids and pressurizing the people, his employees, to take steroids to look better and perform better, and was also helping to peddle the steroids as well. So it all went to court, and then so in order to clean up the image, they sort of like then said, well, smaller guys who don't look like they're on steroids are gonna be like the forefront of the company, and so that's why Bret Hart became obviously the face of the company, and then Shawn Michaels, obviously. Tito Santana was told, if you ask Tito Santana, he was told that he was going to get a run as WWE champion for that reason. But I guess they thought that actually El Matador as the world champion would suck, and
it would have. Tito Santana was an amazing wrestler, and he was a great Intercontinental Champion as well as Tag Team Champion with Rick Martel. But I definitely could never picture Tito as a world champion for some reason, and it's no disrespect to him because he was a pioneer in his own right. But I agree with you 100%.
Many wrestlers did have that conversation with Vince, though. I've heard around the early 90s, like Hacksaw Jim Duggan. He was told by Vince, or he says he was told by Vince that he was going to get a run as world champion. And I guess I see it from
meanwhile,
Vince's point
he never held one belt.
Yes, true. I think Vince would probably say things like that to keep them sweet, so that people work harder. If you give them, it's like dangling the carrot, isn't it? If you sort of like say, you keep up this good work, I'm going to make you my champion. Imagine how that would make them feel. They'd be full of pride and all shiny and all like, oh, Vince thinks I'm brilliant. I'm going to be the champ, and then it never happens. But at least Vince got that. He motivated them, I guess, to try harder because they thought that they were going to be number one.
Well, I mean, he did win the first King of the Ring, right? So I guess he did kind of keep his word.
That's it. But what you were saying about
King Hacksaw.
A lot of the talent, I mean, because when a lot of this talent is in NXT being developed, it really does come across as awesome and so hopeful for the future. But the problem is that they just kind of come in and they just land at the bottom of the pyramid or kind of halfway up. And it is just the content of, at times, it's just the care of the product, isn't it? We've spoken about this many times in previous weeks where we've said about with the creative, what exactly are they doing? Because they care about stuff that's at the top, but not from top to bottom. Not every detail. It's becoming frivolous and stupid and damaging to what has been invested. It's like you think about that talent has been developed. Money has gone, money and time. Time is the most expensive of all the commodities. Costs the most, and then the money that goes into it and trying to build that confidence in the wrestlers and in what we feel about them as an audience, to then destroy it when it gets into the main product. It just makes no sense whatsoever. And that must be Vince McMahon, because obviously, who knows? Maybe when Vince, retires,
takes the dirt nap.
Who knows? Maybe then we'll see a change. I mean, I don't want that to happen. Vince McMahon is obviously a very important, integral part of the company. But it may be interesting if Triple H was fully in charge of the creative aspect, and that full transition from developmental into main product? Would we see a more consistent product without this?
Well, he's got full control of NXT, and look at how awesome it is. Could you picture that on a bigger scale? How awesome the WWE would be? And I can't believe I'm saying this because there was the longest time where I hated Triple H, like as a performer and as the guy who always had to bury everybody in the proverbial shovel. But I cannot front and I cannot take anything away from what he's done with NXT.
No. And he's only going to take it further because now he's got the whole global localization idea going on, like, building NXT camps all across Europe.
Oh, and a side note, so you said global, so it made me think of this. I watched the Table for Three with Kurt Angle, Shane McMahon, and AJ Styles last night when we got home from when I got home from when we were out.
Right.
And they were showing TNA footage on WWE program.
Really?
Wow.
Mm-hmm. If you watch it, you'll see. Apparently TNA has its own like WWE network type thing, or the company Anthem that owns them, and WWE, they allowed WWE to use the footage, and in turn at the end of the programming, WWE plugged their streaming service.
Wow.
So and Kurt Angle was talking about TNA with AJ. I mean, how could you not? I mean, it's
actually I watched
there's such a history to him in TNA.
I watched the thing where where they drive the car, the road thing.
They mentioned TNA and that. Right along. That's a great show.
AJ and Bobby Roode are traveling together.
Yep.
And they and AJ just goes, he's like, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. When we were back in TNA, and I thought I was really surprised because back in the day, back in the golden era of the WWF, Vince never they wouldn't acknowledge WCW's existence. They've never mentioned it, never acknowledged any of the competitors until they did that thing where they
Ric Flair.
No, later. Do you remember they what did they call them? The Huckster.
Oh, the Nacho Man.
The Nacho Man.
And Billionaire Ted.
And Billionaire Ted. That was the first time I remember them but it was really derogatory and it was just this kind of like offhand way of trying to make them look stupid. But actually, I think it was counterproductive because it actually just showed kind of how, at the time, how stupid and petty they were being, whereas at that point, WCW's product was really on the up and looking really cool. And that's ultimately what led to them starting to gain a larger chunk of the market at that time. But that's all history. We know that was and then the Monday Night Wars happened, baby. What a time it was.
So ultimately, what happened was Baron Corbin's team wind up winning. And the next match was the women's match, actually. It was a Money in the Bank qualifying match. Sasha Banks, Ember Moon, and Ruby Riott in a three-way, I wish, in a triple threat. And in the end, Richie and I both called it. Ember Moon won with that beautiful stunner off the top rope. Very impressive. And it was a nice finish. It was cool the way it happened. She kind of did it and then headbanged into the other one's head, and they went down. That was it.
A meeting of the minds, if you will.
Yeah. So that was cool. It was a good match.
Yeah, it was good.
Chad Gable. Go ahead.
I was pleased to see Ember Moon get the win. So obviously she's new to Raw and she's come up from NXT.
Yeah, thankfully she doesn't have the NXT curse yet.
No, she's got a lot of potential. She's got a lot of potential. She's got some really, really cool arsenal moves in her repertoire, as they would say. And
repertoire. In her repertoire. Sorry. Go ahead. So
that was good.
Chad Gable versus Jinder Mahal. Chad Gable versus Jinder Mahal. I was surprised here. I actually thought Chad Gable was going to go over with some kind of roll up or something like that.
I feel like for a long time, they're saying, what was it? Don't hinder Jinder. But I felt this was, don't enable Gable.
I see what you did there.
But they needed to, didn't they? Because Mahal put him over the other week to make him look strong, which was only a nice thing to do. So, and he is a former world champion, and he's becoming more and more decorated and extremely muscular. And so he needed to get a win in order to maintain his strong heel.
His arm is going to explode one day. It's getting too veiny and like full. I don't know. But I'm very high on Jinder Mahal. I like him, and I like his gimmick, and I like his music, and I like his look, and I'm happy for him.
He's done well, isn't he?
Yeah. Hopefully he goes
music
far.
and entrance. It all works well.
I concur.
I concur, old chap.
Indeed.
Indeed. You're the one who's supposed to be talking like that, not us. What's going on here? Jesus. And then the next match was Heath Slater versus Heath Slater and Rhino, versus they got kids. And versus Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler. We already knew who was going to win this one.
The two dudes with attitudes 2.0.
That's right. And Drew McIntyre looks amazing. Dolph Ziggler always looks great, but he gets buried. Hopefully this will push him along.
I'm liking it. I'm liking the tag team. I'm liking the pairing. They both feed off of each other. Like you just said, Dolph Ziggler never disappoints. One of the best performers in the company, I would say.
And most underrated currently.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely he could be like Intercontinental champion, and if I say maybe even a world champion at some point in the near future.
Yep.
Yeah, I totally can see that. He's he is. I'm the wake-up call this place is desperately needed. That's what he says, isn't it? And that's a good name for a move, isn't it? He needs a move called the wake-up call.
I like it.
He's got the Claymore or something like that, but not the Claymore. But he could have another move. But he's an absolute beast, isn't he?
I do not like his new music, Drew McIntyre. I preferred the one he had before this. But I remember when he had just come back or something, and I remember I said to Richie, I was like, Rich, have you seen NXT? Have you seen Drew McIntyre? And he's like, no, I haven't yet. I was like, you gotta freaking hear his music, man. And I sent him. Remember, I sent you the link to like the YouTube. Holy shit, man! It's such a good song.
Yeah.
Why did they do that? Sounds like Terminator 2 Judgment Day now.
Yes, it's like they almost like made it like kind of like a war kind of theme or something.
And maybe it'll grow on me, but I really, really like the other one.
I'm with you.
And
they look like they're preparing them for some kind of push. I don't know how they're gonna, because with a pairing like this, it's difficult because unless you do give them some kind of name or something. Sorry, how do you make it marketable? Ziggler and McIntyre, the Ziggy Mac, and I like
that Ziggy Mac.
Sorry, got a dry throat there. But yeah, it looks like they're going to be in for a push of some kind, and they're dominating, aren't they? In every respect. So they're coming out. They've got this kind of attitude where they're like straight talking. They get in the ring and they don't pull any punches. They just destroy, and people. It's an age-old, recipe for success, isn't it? To do that. So yeah, all good.
And the next match was Bobby Roode versus Elias Sampson, and it was actually a good match. I don't know. I just I don't know what's going on with Elias. I mean, especially being in the arena that last night, that you could hear like how over he is, and granted, so is Bobby Roode. So I don't think the loss destroyed Elias's career, but it's like I don't understand why they don't do more with him, and I feel like even though they are doing stuff with him, I feel like it's not enough. I feel like Elias, they should push him to the moon now, like while he's red hot. It's like I feel like they drag shit out too much nowadays to the point where by the time they get to where they gotta go, I feel like they've taken too long. You know what I mean? Like it's I don't know. I just feel like they need to do a little bit more with him.
He's getting even better and better at doing his little skits with the guitar. His guitar playing has improved.
Yeah,
I've noticed one thing because he was never a great guitarist, but it's definitely got better. But he's really, really good. Like when he Backlash, I thought he was hilarious. He really, I found him very entertaining. And but is it? I mean, where do you push him to? I mean, the Universal title is the part-timers title, and only with Brock gone is that going to be available again. So it's like the Intercontinental title is the Raw main title. Yeah, so I don't know. Can you line them into that? Because the Intercontinental title, if you think of the people who are going for it at the moment, it's really, excellent workers, really stacked with great athletes. So, I think it's one of these things where they're just kind of preparing it and they just can't do it all at once. But it'll come. It's on the cards.
I feel like the response is always, wins and losses don't really count nowadays, but they do count. You know what I'm saying? Like, they do count nowadays. The wins and losses. So, I don't know. I just feel like something's gotta pop. With him. But in any case, in the next match was Seth Rollins versus Mojo Rawley. Where the frig did this come from?
How do you go from having a 5-star Intercontinental match with Finn Balor to we don't just get hype, we stay hype?
Well, I was hoping that it was going to be, what's his name, like you said, Jason Jordan. But that would have been a great match. I mean, whatever. I don't like Mojo Rawley at all. I never did.
I'm with you.
Never will. I have no interest in this man. And people were literally, I don't know if you heard it on TV, literally chanting, "We want Ryder" the whole time when he was talking.
Wow.
To the point where you couldn't even hear what the fuck he was saying because people were like, "We want Ryder," so loud, the whole arena. So
the thing is, when we feel that way towards somebody so passionately, that in essence is also a talent and an ability that Mojo possesses to draw that feeling from us. So he naturally is a heel and should be a heel, and used correctly could be a really good heel. And I mean a real heel, not a heel that does stuff and we then think is cool and we want to follow. It's like, no, we actually just dislike him and we want to see him get his ass kicked. And if he wins, we feel disappointed, because traditionally that's what a heel should be. We shouldn't, like, the Stone Cold effect takes over too often these days, where they try and make somebody heel, but we just perceive it as being very cool, and we go, yeah, I like that guy, But Mojo, somebody like that, that stay hype thing and everything. Yeah, people just, maybe if he was just booed a lot more, maybe they just turn him. But I think also he's also got this kind of attitude and demeanor about him, which is very much that kind of what you gonna do about it kind of bully kind of thing, which would suit him well. So I think Mojo, for the best part, he's still kind of fairly green in terms of where he is in main product. I think his future is as a heel for sure. Yeah, if anything, I don't. If he doesn't just get fired, but I don't know.
No matter what, he's a heel
Jim
now.
Ross
If
said,
they turn him face, he still sucks.
Jim Ross said that he could be among the greats. Remember that.
Jim Ross is also senile, and Jim Ross has also said something stupid the other day. Rich, you want to elaborate on that?
Oh, he actually came out and said that the woman should not be paid for the Greatest Royal Rumble event that was over in Saudi Arabia.
Believe that?
He said, right, go back again. He said that the women...
He said the women should not be paid for the Greatest Royal Rumble event that took place in Saudi Arabia.
Which women was he talking about?
The entire women roster.
None of them wrestled on the card, is that right?
Correct, because they weren't allowed to, because due to regulations in Saudi Arabia, because no women are allowed to partake in any kind of sporting events. Or even performance sports at all to begin with.
See, my problem with that is like,
aren't they paid a salary anyway? So it doesn't matter what they wrestle and what they don't wrestle. They're just being paid on. It's not like you've done a certain amount of dates. We pay you for each show. That they agree in their contract that they're getting a certain amount of money. So whether or not they were on the card or not, they're getting the same money that they normally would, wouldn't they? Well, I would.
Well, no, they get part of the gate and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So they got paid like what it was, $120 million or some ridiculous number to be there, and I feel like that was completely messed up if that was the case, because, or to even say that, only because part of the reason that they're there is because of the women's revolution. So,
right.
And I'm not trying to be like one of those people that wears their vagina on their head, but I'm just saying
we're talking about the great Royal Rumble where none of the women actually competed, though.
Correct.
If they didn't compete, though, isn't there the argument that because they didn't do anything, that therefore they then shouldn't get paid? Not because of their gender, but because of if you imagine that they were men who were, I mean, I would have thought. I think are the men who didn't compete that night going to get paid for not being there?
Oh, I think what WWE did, like, and this is just strictly my opinion, I think that the fact that they knew that the woman couldn't perform, and it wasn't by it was necessary for them not to be able to perform. That their way of handling it and kind of calming them down, I think, is kind of paying them for the event regardless of actually being there as performers.
Oh, I see.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's kind of like, okay, like, we would want you to perform, but due to Saudi law, you're not allowed to perform. But we're not going to keep you guys out of the fold. We're getting a huge payday here. You've done so much for the company to bring us abroad as it is, so we're going to give you something towards this event to begin with.
That's cool. That's their prerogative to do so. I think that's cool to pay them. I mean, I can see it from JR's point of view, because what he's saying is if it truly was equality and you were taking gender out of it and you were just treating people as performers and individuals regardless of gender, that the fair thing to do is that you get paid on performance, and if you were there performing, then you get paid. If you weren't there performing, you don't. And I think he was challenging that notion that a whole group of people based on their gender and the fear of criticism, that because they weren't involved and therefore having the opportunity to be paid, they then had to compensate them with pay. I think that's what he's doing, because if it truly was equality, you would do it just truly by because if there are men there who were competing and getting paid because they competed, and then there were men who weren't there and didn't get any pay, because then that, if you think about it as well, then if the male competitors it's getting too convoluted now, but if the male competitors who weren't there and didn't compete didn't get paid, then it's not fair on them, because everyone else has got paid, and a whole group of people, because of their gender, have been paid and they didn't compete. But then there's some men who didn't compete and they're not getting paid. So then there's always a group who it's not fair on. Do you see what I mean? Like, but I think it's cool from a point of view of making it up, because they weren't allowed the opportunity to be part of it. But that is part of the Saudi way, isn't it? And I thought it was very funny that they did, because during that Great Royal Rumble, they did do this whole kind of bit, weren't they, where they were talking about, in Saudi Arabia, they've been making ground, and women are now allowed to learn how to drive,
but they're not allowed to wrestle.
But they're not allowed to be part of this show, even if they were covered. And when they've done house shows and things like that.
And did you see there was also one instance where they actually aired the Backlash promo, where you had everybody coming together from both brands, and they actually had Carmella and a few other of the female superstars in there, and a major official in the Saudi government had to come out and issue an apology or make a statement,
just for the ad,
just saying that, denouncing that WWE shouldn't have done that. Now, I mean, I understand it all comes down to the money. Obviously, with WWE, they got to go wherever they can make the most money. I mean, they granted, I think, like Mitch said, they made between $120 and $200 million just for actually being there, for the event. Plus, they got a 10-year TV deal out of whatever contract they signed, But in retrospect, and the way everything is nowadays, where everything is supposed to be gender equality and stuff like that, WWE's heavily criticized, I think, in the same fact now that they're doing something that is exactly reversing that notion of having everybody on an equal plane. So why, for a company that's so now publicly traded and so well known worldwide, people are probably, and Mitch, you could even say, we were at the event yesterday and they actually had clips of it. People are booing it in the stands. There was not any applause whatsoever for the Greatest Royal Rumble. They booed it continuously.
I'll tell you what, when I watched the Greatest Royal Rumble, the thing that annoyed me the most is all the men who were in behind the front rows that you could see, they weren't even watching. They were all it looked like they were all wandering around just chatting about what they did at work, and it just and these were when they panned out, you could see how they had separated a lot of the kind of really fans who were into it away from the ringside, and they had all the royal family and all these rich people who weren't really interested, as close to the action as possible. We could see them; they looked disinterested, and it was just what planet is this happening on? It was very unusual, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was an unusual event.
I mean, and if you're talking down bottom dollar, no pun intended, All this came down to it's a giant payday for WWE.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't think it's. I don't think there's any other rhyme or reason behind it. It's all about money.
Which I can't fault them for because it's a business.
No,
it's
a business.
Like if somebody offered me $200 million to go overseas and perform, I'd be like, yeah, can I get there tomorrow? Or I would have been there yesterday, like.
So
but,
I mean, so as
but I do, like I said, with the JR thing, I do agree that I do think that the women should get some kind of compensation for not being allowed. I think it's completely messed up. It's almost like emotional compensation, like we get from lawsuits and stuff like that. They should have been. And obviously they were, but I think that they're entitled to something. You know what I'm
saying? I'm going to be controversial. I tend to disagree. I think for true equality, I think that it should be on performance. And
I think everybody should be paid that works for the company. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And male or female, I think they should all get some kind of cut of that money that came in.
Yeah. They should get a small, a cut of it, no matter what size, big.
If it's a bonus, in your pay pack or something.
I'm not saying that the people that didn't perform should get paid the same as the people that did get performed.
No.
But I think they should get a bonus check or something like that. You know what I'm saying? It's when I worked for the bank, every Christmas we got a bonus. You know what I'm saying?
Right, and it's also in the same sense if you think about if you wrestle on the pre-show, I think at WrestleMania, you get less of a bonus, or like you don't make the cut for the DVD or something like that when you release it, so you don't make that as far as your marketing goes, as like your bonus check or whatever. So I mean, it's like little things like that.
Right. Well, in any case, they did get paid, so thankfully, at least they were recognized. So
we'll be having this discussion all over again come November when they go back there to do another event.
Yep.
Yeah. So. I don't know. I think that maybe compensating people is a risky line to walk sometimes, because where does it end? Because if they ever decide to put on a pay-per-view that's made up entirely of the female roster, which totally is plausible because the talent is there, the male competitors would never dream of saying, well, how come we're not performing on that card, surely we should be paid as well because we can't perform and have the same opportunity, because it would be seen as what is a male dominated or traditionally has been a male dominated industry because of its combat nature. I don't know, it's a damn big issue. Let's face it. You could go on forever. You could do a whole podcast just about this one subject and get Ronda Rousey on, and she'd come in, break a few arms, get Stone Cold Steve Austin, and he'd be like, I'm not even going to bother doing an impression of him. It's far too late.
The next match was Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt versus Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel.
Yeah.
Another job match of sorts, or loser or Twinkie match. We know who's gonna win this match, and like I said, for a Raw in Long Island in Nassau Coliseum, I think that it should have been a little bit more. There should have been a little bit more, like a little bit more heart put into it. I feel like there was a lot more job matches than I thought. Things like that. Like I think it should have just been, and I've already said I will not be going to any more Raw or SmackDown events unless I get tickets dirt cheap, or unless there's something advertised that I really want to see, just because of that one thing I'll feel fulfilled on my money. It'll be all house shows for me and WrestleMania. So
I agree. I totally agree with you 100%.
I'm not, there was too much. I felt like there was too much pausing. There was too much, I don't know, man. It's
too much bullshit. Yeah. It was you want to go and you want to watch a wrestling match. Promo after promo after this.
And what pissed me off even more, and I know they got to cross promote their shit, but every time there was like a gap, there was a commercial for something else that they're selling or they're doing, or
tap out or some other shit that they got going on.
It was like I don't know. I felt like it was a giant infomercial sitting there. You know what I mean? In any case, I guess again it's a business. That's what they have to do. But in any case, so Hardy and Wyatt go over, which is not a surprise, and actually. Matt Hardy, I think, dropped the belt out of the ring when he got into the ring and the match was about to start, and the referee or the timekeeper never came around to get the belt. So it was funny because when you see them posing at the end of the match, the referee, and I was watching him, couldn't find the second belt. So that's why when they're posing at the end doing their little thing where he kneels down and he stands behind him and does the whole delete thing, they don't have the belts on them because the referee had to literally look for the belt because they couldn't. The timekeeper was like shrugging his shoulders at the ref like he didn't know where the friggin' belt was. So I wonder if they got in trouble for that in the back. But that was just something I saw when I was there.
I've never known that to happen. First time I've ever heard that.
Yep. So, and then the main event was Reigns and Sami Zayn and Finn Balor. The three of them faced off. And I thought Roman Reigns was going to win this match. I left before it finished. I left as it was going on. As soon as that tag match finished, I turned to my buddy and I said, "You ready?" And we literally walked out the door and left the parking lot within like 2 minutes. So there was no traffic, nobody trying to get through, and no crowd. That's the one thing I got to say about the Nassau Coliseum. They don't have that issue like the Garden has, that you don't got to go up 20 million freaking staircases and take the elevator down. Like, if we had waited to the end, I mean, sure, we would have dealt with people like... But as soon as you come down the steps from the section you're in, you're right there. The door, you push the door open and you go out. You know, there's no... You know, you have to use certain exits and all this other nonsense, you know?
Right.
So... But that's the one thing I got to say about Nassau Coliseum. Plus, they've redone it, and it's so nice looking in there too. It's, you know, me and Richie walked around it 3 times yesterday. That was pretty cool. We were doing laps.
Oh,
so
yes,
that was fun.
Rule number one, cardio.
Cardio. Rule number 1 in zombie in WWE land is cardio. So, but Finn Balor won the match. He's in the Money in the Bank.
Jinder interfered, didn't he? Hindering.
I was actually very shocked by that. I was not expecting Jinder to be the one that would cause Reigns to lose the match.
Yep.
So I'm very excited though. Hopefully this helps propel Jinder forward, and I mean obviously Reigns will probably likely win, but still having still the confidence in Jinder to push him forward and
further legitimizes him.
Exactly. You're taking on the big dog.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, I think we did in one of our conversations. We talked about them needing to take Roman and separate him and put him on different programs, not different shows. But I mean, with like what they used to do with Bret Hart, where they put him with Jean-Pierre Lafitte and Hakushi,
yes,
and Jerry Lawler. They would always put him in programs with Jerry Lawler in order to kind of keep him away and keep him occupied from the main title scene until it was right to bring him back in for that.
Yep.
And so this Jinder bit is just another way of doing that, just kind of put him on another program, get him away from the main title picture for a little bit, just so that we can have a bit of variation.
You know, and then I also think it's also a sign for WWE that in creative management that maybe they're not too sure now with Reigns being the big guy going forward. Now, if him having a feud with Jinder Mahal, now they may be ready to take that next step to propel somebody forward as far as taking on Lesnar for the title.
Yeah, so it'd have to be. I think we all know who the most who is the MVP probably of WWE right now.
I'd probably have to go Strowman, I would probably say.
Yeah, totally. The guy is I think he's exceeded expectations in many respects. He's now
you're asking who's the most over guy of Raw? Is that what the question is, or?
Yeah, I think
I would say Seth Rollins.
True. Well, he's certainly the best wrestler. He's the best wrestler.
He's the best wrestler, and he's also super popular.
Yeah.
I'd say he got probably the biggest pop besides Zack Ryder and Braun Strowman for sure.
What they should do for Seth is bring back King of the Ring, but don't do it in a way that they are going to actually call him King. But he would be very good in with a Bret Hart type win at King of the Ring. Maybe even Finn actually would be good for that as well. But because we've spoken in the past about having King of the Ring return, and that'd be a good because they're the kind of guys that can just go and go and go. So doing a number of matches in an evening, action-packed matches could really work. So that was a complete digression of the point. But I think Braun at some point they've got a payoff's got to be there, isn't it? And who is more believable to defeat Brock? You know, Braun or Seth? I mean,
Well, I mean, we saw Seth take on Lesnar back like in the Royal Rumble when he had the triple threat match with him and Cena, and Rollins really put on a great show against him, and he was able to get some offense off of him. You know, it made it look believable. So, I mean, Strowman's the more legitimate looking guy, over due to size and strength and stuff. But I could definitely see Rollins being like the underdog going into it and actually being able to beat him.
Yeah, for sure. But let's face it, it's good to have more than one option.
Absolutely,
got a few options, right?
And it makes the fans wondering and thinking what could possibly happen next, and who's going to wind up getting that, being able to grab that brass ring and run with it.
That's it. And it's going to be interesting in the next 6 months.
Yeah,
I guess. So I mean, what? So I mean, it's all going to head towards SummerSlam, isn't it? So everything what's happening now is kind of the next big one. It's SummerSlam. So is that when it happens? Is that when we get this transition? Maybe it'd be Brock. Maybe it would be Brock, Rollins, and Braun in a triple threat. Who knows?
So I mean, whoever's going to wind up being, you're probably going to wind up finding out after probably the Monday after Money in the Bank. I'm guessing that's when they'll land the number one contender to take on Lesnar.
Very good.
All right, boys. Well, it was a good Raw. You know, it was fun to be there because I was with Rich, but yeah, I feel like it was more entertaining on TV, especially when you could forward through the commercials.
Absolutely.
I think maybe that's another thing that turned me off about it. It's like I couldn't forward through the commercials. I had no control over what I was watching. So, I mean, I could have went and taken a leak every time, but then it would have been waiting in line for hours. But in any case, we're glad to have you guys back on, and we're glad to be back together. And we'll catch everybody next week.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. Guys,
right.
Pleasure as always.
And as always, don't forget to check out Wrestling Figure Workshop on Instagram and Facebook and eBay. and check out Hastel Toy as well.